Hello, hello! Welcome back to another episode of Good Grief. First off, you may be able to tell I am still sick. I did not make good choices last weekend as it was Halloween. And so instead of choosing to stay home, lay in bed, early bedtime, drink my tea, eat my soup, recover, none of those choices were made. So here we are. You have to suffer through yet another week of hearing me be gross and congested. So enjoy that, and apologies. What else? Oh yeah, before we dive into today's episode, I just had the craziest thing happen to me, and it was just a reminder that, I don't know, grief can pop up at any point, and memories of your person can come at the most random times. I have recently been running our Live Like Sam Foundation's Instagram page while we're searching for someone new to do the role. Subtle plug, if you want the job, please reach out. But seeing as ChatGPT has taken over the world, I simply don't have the brain capacity to think of a good Instagram caption anymore these days. So I was using voice to text, and I said, "Live like Sam" into my phone, and I looked down at the end, and it's all the text looks normal, and then right next to Sam's name is the purple smiling devil emoji. And I was like, wait, what? So I was so confused as to how ChatGPT pulled in Sam smiling devil face. And then I went and looked at my contact for Sam in my iPhone, which I haven't looked at in forever, obviously, because I'm not texting and calling Sam. And I realized that his name is Sam smiling purple devil emoji Jackenthal. And so anytime I voice to text his name in, it's registering that as his contact and pulling in that smiling devil. So anyways, that is how I started off my morning. It honestly gave me a good laugh and reminded me that, like, we were not perfect siblings. We were the siblings who bickered and the siblings who made annoying contact names for each other and got in fights. And I don't know. It was funny. I'm going to keep the contact name as is, but it gave me a good laugh and just felt like a funny reminder. I don't know. Anywho, that's enough of that. Let's get into today's episode. If I'm being honest, today's episode is going to be a bit more of a ramble. There's no script. There's definitely no big theme here. It's just me being honest with you guys, because lately I have just been tired and exhausted. Not physically tired, but like grief tired, and I feel like you guys probably know what I mean. It's that kind of tired that comes from constantly having to think about your loss, talk about it, explain it, make meaning out of it, like as I literally just did with that story about the freaking devil emoji. And do not get me wrong, I absolutely love doing this podcast. I really, truly do. It's one of the best things that I've made, and I'm so excited about it. But there are also days where even talking about grief feels like too much. Grief is just a lot to talk about, and it's not something that we all should want to have to talk about every day. So if you are feeling like you don't just have the emotional energy to keep dealing with your grief right now, then I guess this episode is for you, because same. So let's talk about the exhaustion of constantly identifying with your grief, because sometimes it feels like grief has become my whole entire personality. Like, it is baked into every single part of how people see me and how I converse and how I appear. I'll just be out somewhere trying to exist, and someone will bring up my podcast in usually a really nice way, so I do really appreciate that. But there's also that little part of me that sometimes wants to scream, like, can we just talk about literally anything else? I'm so tired of being the girl who lost her brother, of being the one with the beautiful story or the meaningful platform. And I'm aware I've done that to myself when it comes to the podcast, at least. But sometimes I just want to be like a normal 20-something-year-old who gets to talk about dumb stuff that has no meaning to it, no purpose, no beautiful story, and not feel guilty for doing it. And I think it's hard because grief shows up constantly, even in those little moments. Like, even when someone dies on a TV show, I can feel my body brace. It's like, here we go again, another moment that should be small and insignificant, but is somehow going to hit too close to home for me, or make everyone in the room uncomfortable because they realize that I'm watching this scene where someone dies and now they're worried about me. And let's be honest, that could fully be me overthinking things, and the people in the room are not thinking about me at all. But I think it's human nature to assume the whole world revolves around us and everyone is thinking about us constantly. I actually had someone tell me something the other day No, I don't think someone told me this. I think it was Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins said, "You are important, but you are not that important." Honestly, that really stuck with me. I think in my brain, I constantly am telling myself, oh my God, everyone is looking at me or talking about me or thinking about me, or someone just died in the movie. Everyone's side-eyeing me, or someone just mentioned their brother and now everyone's really uncomfortable. And like, the reality is I'm important, but I'm not that important. And realistically, people aren't having those thoughts. Everyone is enmeshed in their own world, their own minds. They're not thinking about me. So I do have to say, I think part of the grief exhaustion comes from me in my own head making things up. And that alone is exhausting. Speaking of things I've done to myself, I started this podcast. And hosting a podcast about grief means constantly revisiting mine. Every episode, every question, every edit, I am like in the thick of my grief, trying to write a script and think of topics. I'm just like closing my eyes, spiraling about all the grief thoughts I have had. And yes, in a way that is very beautiful, but also equally, and if not more, exhausting. And while honestly at this point I do feel pretty healed in my grief, and maybe that's naive to think, but I do have to wonder if my healing journey would look differently if grief wasn't part of my work. If I wasn't constantly talking about loss through Live Like Sam and now through this podcast. Like, would I feel lighter if I didn't have to keep going back to that time? Or would I miss it because that's this huge part of who I am? And honestly, in some ways, it does feel freeing to be able to talk about Sam and my grief. I don't know. I think there's guilt in even asking that question. Like, I should be endlessly grateful to have turned something horrible into something meaningful. But honestly, even something with purpose gets heavy. It gets exhausting after a certain amount of time. I think it's okay for me to accept that sometimes I won't have the capacity to keep holding space for it all. Like, that is okay, and that is the truth. It doesn't mean I love Sam any less. It doesn't mean I'm forgetting. It doesn't mean I'm grieving wrong. It just means I'm human, and sometimes I need a break from being the grieving version of myself, because there are so many other versions of Skylar that I am and that I want to be, and I think sometimes grief gets in the way, which is hard to say because grief has also fully created the person I am today, and so many parts of that I love. I don't know. So to my listeners, maybe you feel the same way, like you're too tired to do grief today, too tired to be the girl whose dad died, to be the guy whose mom died. Like, we're too tired to be the griever. I honestly, so often, am exhausted of my title being the girl whose brother died. And that's a huge part of why I left Park City and moved to Boston, because I couldn't stand to have that be such a big part of my identity. The girl whose brother died. Even if that identity often isn't looked at with sadness, but with pride and strength and resilience, it's a lot. And I think for all of us grievers, we can't always be in the mood to do grief today. Actually, I think we rarely are. So yeah, there was no big takeaway with today's episode, just an honest rant with you guys. Do not get me wrong, I absolutely love this podcast. I love what it's become, but I also love the parts of me that have literally nothing to do with grief, if that's even possible. And I'm trying to give those parts of me more space lately. I will say this episode is also timely because we are now finally into November, which means we are approaching the holiday season. And I think as all grievers know, the holidays hit extra hard. They are extra awkward and uncomfortable and extra lonely and extra sad and extra griefy, if we can call, if that's a word. And I think I'm going to focus a lot on the holidays and how to make it through the holidays over the next 2 months. So I first wanted to kind of put this out there that the holidays are going to be exhausting for all of us as grievers. And so I needed to take a moment to acknowledge that I am exhausted. And to any of my viewers who are about to experience your first holidays without your person, I am sending you the biggest hug, and know that I'm going to do my best to create some content to support you through that. So if you at all related to this theme of being completely exhausted and sick of doing grief and not having the energy for it, hello, please let me know. And as we start to think about the next few months of holiday-related episodes, please, please, please feel free to reach out to me. Send me any questions, ideas, themes, stories. Give me things you want to hear about to help you make it through the holidays. That is all I have. Thank you for letting me be real about all my feelings today. If you're also in the season of not having the energy to grieve, you are not doing it wrong. You are just tired. And you deserve to rest too. So give yourself that. Please, please, please leave a 5-star review, share the Good Grief podcast with a friend, and I will see you next week. Bye.